Hi, this is Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. By accessing this presentation, you're inviting me to share this information regarding our passage through this challenging and very hopeful time. And this is the care and feeding of a New World Age report for the Gregorian date of September 30th, 2013, which is also One Akbal, or night, in the Mayan Tzolkin calendar. We're also going to be talking about the Libra new moon, Venus moving into Sagittarius, not to mention the Sun forming a grand cross with Pluto, Uranus, and Jupiter. September 30th is One Akbal, or night, which carries the themes of dreams, transitions from light to dark, and dark to light, starry skies, subconscious thoughts, the void where nothing exists but there's all potential, the womb of creation, sanctuary, the underworld, stillness, introspection, dawn and dusk. And the glyph for night is the owl, which is a creature of both the day and the night. And the one night Trizena is a great time to really explore the dark parts in our lives and to realize that without darkness, we really can't see the stars. And I've been including the human design transits for the Trizena along with the astrology and Tzolkin day signs, which I'll cover in a few minutes. I'm going to quickly review some information before discussing the neutrino forecast for the current one night, 13-day period. As always, we start by looking at the sun and the moon, earth, planets and nodes as we would in astrology. And here is a chart, and you can see that this is represented by the black glyphs found inside the spokes of the wheel. And then basically what we do is, instead of looking at the planets as they relate to zodiological constellations or to each other by the angles that they make, we look at them in relation to the hexagrams of the I Ching, and those are then mapped to specific locations inside the body graph. And this chart here represents the body graph that you would see in a human design reading. And when we're looking at the black, we're looking at what's happening right now. For instance, at the beginning of this Trizena, we have the Sun in Libra, but it's also in the 18th gate. And so here's kind of a blow up of the chart, and you can see here's the Sun. It's in the sign of Libra. We see the 18th gate, and then this stack of lines out on the outer edge. That's actually how it would be denoted in the I Ching as being yin yang yang, yin yin yang. But anyway, the other planets that are on this chart that we can easily see up here, we've got Pluto in the 58 in Capricorn. We've got Venus in the 43 in Scorpio. We've got Saturn conjunct the North Node in the 44th gate, also Scorpio, and Mercury in Scorpio in the 50th gate, or the end of Libra. I think it changes right at the very beginning of this Trizena. And anyway, all this information gets mapped inside the body graph, and it gets mapped to what we call gates. What we're looking at here is that we have 9 centers, and what this represents is the next stage of evolution, that we're no longer 7-centered or 7 chakra beings. That in 1781 there was a mutation, and the mutation changed us as humans. And so it's interesting because a lot of us are still very connected or attached to the 7 chakra understanding. I've taught yoga for many years. I studied in India, and so I'm very well versed in the 7 chakra. But the truth is, 1781 there was a mutation because prior to that, the 7 chakra being was living a Saturnian life cycle. They were living 28 years, which is one cycle of Saturn, with midlife hitting around 14. And now we're living much longer, and the life cycle is a Uranian life cycle that's 84 years with midlife hitting at 42. And so when I'm talking about it, I'm going to be referring to these different shapes as centers, and then the pathways between them are called channels. The channels come from the Kabbalistic tree of life, and when we start this this Trecena, like I said, we have the sun in the 18th hexagram, and then opposite that, on the other side, it would be the representative of the Earth in the 17th hexagram. What happens is we map the 18th hexagram is mapped to an opening in the energy channel that's called the gate, and this is the 18 is located right here, coming off the splenic center, and this is called the gate of correction. And what it's attached to, this is a collective logic energy channel that's called the channel of judgment. We're going to be talking about it because it's defined right at the very beginning of this Trecena. And, you know, I found Human Design to be an amazingly accurate tool, and it's really become my primary way of providing readings to folks. All the black strips of paper on here on the diagram represent the gates that are being activated by the sun, the planets, the nodes, regardless of whether they form a channel. So at the beginning of one night, we have the following potentials or hanging gates. We have the Earth is in the 17th gate up here. This is about opinions. We have the North Node and Saturn in the 44th gate, which is really, it gives us a sensitivity to whether people are being truthful with us or not. The South Node is up here in the 24, which is about wanting to understand something that's mysterious. We have Mercury is in the 50, which is about what's the laws that we need, how do we protect people who maybe can't protect themselves. Venus in the 43 is about having really freakish and potentially genius thoughts, basically depending on how we articulate them to others. Mars is over here in the 4, which is about thinking logically. We have Jupiter down here in the 53, which is about initiating things. Uranus is over here in the 21, which is half the channel of rulership. And then we have Neptune over here in the 55, which is about, it's the gate of the spirit. So obviously not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information is very helpful if you know your own human design, because some of these transits will form channels with the potentials in your personal body graph, and from that maybe define centers that you don't normally have defined. We consider this to be a conditioning force, but you know, I also believe that if you know you have a certain thing defined, you can use it. Just know that it's not you, and eventually it goes away. And if you're interested in this, you can get your human design chart by going to jovianarchive.com and clicking on the button that says get your free rave chart, and then just enter your birth information. And on this demonstration, I'm not going to be following the moon because it activates between 3 and 4 gates every day, and you'll see this is going to be busy enough as it is. So anyway, on one Akbal or night, we have one channel defined. And like I said, we've got the sun up here in the 18th gate, and we've got Pluto down here in the 58th gate, and this is called the channel of judgment, which is the design of insatiability. And it's going to be with us until October 2nd. And what it does is it brings us pressure to offer constructive criticism. And this is a conditioning force that works best if it's invited, and its purpose is not for personal, but for something that's going to be good for the collective, good for humanity, good for, you know, everybody that is your everybody in life. And this can really give us, conditions us to be more perfectionists, with an insatiability for making improvements. Unfortunately, most of the people will not be aware of this influence or how best to apply it in their lives. So we'll see a lot of folks meeting resistance as they try to change like their families or friends, with little success, which then leads to a sense of dissatisfaction. After all, true perfection does not exist, only ascending levels of mastery. And I think that that's what this definition is here to teach us. So later on the 30th, Mercury moves out of the 50, and it moves to the 28, which is right here. This is about needing to know what our purpose is in life, and I certainly would suggest getting a human design reading if that's something that's really important to you, because that is definitely something that gets covered when you have a reading. What is the purpose of all of this? And then, like I said, October 2nd, the sun leaves the 18th gate. And when that leaves, we lose the definition of the root center and the splenic center. And it's going to move over here to the 48th gate. And this 48th gate is called the well. And it's about having depth. I like to associate it with John Lennon. The other end of it is where the skills are, and that's where Paul McCartney's connection was. And then whenever the sun moves out of the gate, the Earth also moves gates, and it is moving out of the 17 and joining Uranus in the 21. So at this point in the astrology, this is when we're going to have a Sun-Uranus opposition. Also on the second, very busy day, Venus, it leaves the 43rd gate, and it's going to move down here to the 14th gate. This is about resources and having resources. And then on the 5th, Mercury moves again. It's a very busy planet. It's moving very, very quickly as it's racing along. And it leaves the 28 at this point, and it moves and joins Saturn and the North Node in the 44th gate. And then on the 6th, on the 6th, Mars is going to move out of the 4, and it moves to the 29, which is down here in the sacral center. And this is, let's see, find a nice piece for this here. This is about saying yes. It's the gate of saying yes, the 29. And then on the 7th, Venus, again, these are moving very fast, is moving out of the 14th gate, and it moves into the 34. Let's find a good piece for that. So it's in the 34, and this channel goes underneath that channel. These two do not connect. And then this all leads up to the very next day on the 8th. The sun moves out of the 48, and it moves into, what's this going to be? It's going to move into, here, I'm just going to have to do it this way, into the 57. And because it moves into the 57, it also connects up with the 34, which then gives us this definition, because now we have the sacral center that's now connected over. Let's get a better one here. Might be a little long, but you'll get the idea. All right, so that gives us this whole channel here that goes from the 57 to the 34, 34 to the 57, whichever way you want to look at it. And of course, when the sun moves, the Earth moves, and it's going to move out of the 21, and it moves into the 51, which is right next door, up here in the ego center. So anyway, with the sun moving into the 57th hexagram on the 8th, and Venus in the 34th, we have the channel of power. And this is the design of the archetype, which will be with us until October 12th, the very last day of the Trecena. And this channel brings an attunement to the body to have an acute early warning system to anything in our immediate environment. This increases our intuitive awareness through the power of a sacral response. And this may affect folks who feel that folks are going to feel a little more on guard. They're alert to any dangers that are happening right in the moment. This is a real animal instinct to engage in battle or jump out of the way with a split-second response. From our attunement, and this is really, it's acoustic. It's it's individual channel, so it's acoustic. It's about empowerment. It's about hearing the sounds, and from that sound, there's the kicks in the fight or flight. People are going to be more in tune with what's being said, as well as mostly from like the tone of voice of the speaker, not so much what the words are that are being spoken. And sometimes this is experienced as a coolness with others, but it's an individual channel of survival, and it represents the archetype of what it is to be human. And when people experience this, or when people have this in their chart, these are people that how they respond to life actually empowers other people to follow their individual energetic here. And it's about survival. It's deaf. It doesn't hear anybody else telling them what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing. And then let's see, we have on the 11th, we have Mercury moving out of the 44, and it moves to the 1, which is about creativity. So that the 1 gets, and then on the 12th, Venus leaves the 34, so that we still have the 57, but we no longer have that definition of the channel of power. So anyway, before I get into the energy for Akbal or the Night Tzolkin, I would like to just take a moment to kind of discuss the metaphysics of the upcoming month. And October is the 10th month, and with the digits for 2013, when we add them together, we get 16, and then we add the 1 and the 6. That tells us that we're in the 7th month in the numerology. And basic numerology reduces numbers to between 1 and 9. So when we think of the arc, 7 represents a time of digging into events and situations to kind of get a deeper perspective with a stronger focus on things like values, motives, and ethics. These are also themes of the sign of Scorpio, which actually has several influences. Mercury and Saturn are in Scorpio all month long. The sun enters the sign on the 23rd. And the rulers of Scorpio, which the traditional ruler is Mars and the modern ruler is Pluto, are supporting each other at month's end. And this 16-7 combination represents the Tower card and the Chariot card in the Tarot, which is about having an all-consuming fire of love that burns up everything that's contrary to our authentic nature through finding our stillness even when we're in motion. And all the planets appear to be in forward motion from our vantage point on Earth, except for Chiron and Uranus and Neptune, pretty much outer planets, which appear to be moving retrograde or in reverse motion. And I've been talking about the retrograde planets in depth up until the last video. So now I'm just going to really quickly keynote what each one of these retrograde planets means, because the retrograde planets have more of an internal focus, whereas when they're in direct motion, the focus is more external. Retrograde Chiron will have us reviewing our wounds so that they can be released by having the courage to open our hearts to any fear or pain associated with our past. Retrograde Uranus in Aries is here to shake our very foundation, to shock us to awaken, and forces us to embrace a new way of living through reversals and unexpected events. Retrograde Neptune in Pisces is seeking transcendence through spiritual practices to keep us going as we expand our intuition and consciousness. And, I've been talking about that we're in the middle of 4 years where we have Uranus in Aries, which is about the rebellion of the individual, challenging the decaying power structure, which is represented by Pluto and Capricorn, So this is it's always good to be grounded in our spiritual practices as we're going through, these different upheavals and witnessing the decay of things and the collapse of things that we maybe thought would always be. So let's look at the daily vibrational energy for this Trecena. September 30th is One Akbal, or night. It's about unity experience through contemplating the stars, with the Leo moons finding support from Uranus, merging with Mars. This is emotional energy that's shifting from people having the impulse to engage in activities that make us feel more alive, to later on experiencing more irritable moods and critical communications when connected to Mars. October 1st is Toucan, or seed, or lizard, which is about duality experience through planting seeds and making new connections. And on this day, we have Mercury in a trine to Neptune. So we have Mercury here in early Scorpio, and then we have Neptune here in Pisces. And so from our vantage point here on Earth, what we're experiencing is this is an exact 120-degree angle. And so this is really interesting in the context of the Mercury retrograde that's coming up, because this is actually the day where Mercury hits the point where it's gonna it'll eventually turn direct once it's retrograded back. So this is when we move into that orb of starting to notice events that start to key us in that it's time to make some kind of change in life. And it's interesting because that is the point where it's forming this 120-degree angle with Neptune. So we're going to get 3 of these Mercury trine Neptunes. So Mercury turns direct on November 10th. So this is the point where it's going to be the angle where it's going to be turning direct. So we're actually also going to have a trine to Neptune on November 9th and November 11th, before and after Mercury turns direct. So this is going to be important energy as we look at this Mercury retrograde cycle that we're just about to enter, which begins on the 1st of October. Now, and it's going to be particularly intense when Mercury is turning direct again, because Mercury will be in stopped motion. Neptune will be being almost in stopped motion because it turns direct a few weeks later, and Neptune takes a long time to slow down, stop, and restart. So basically, we're going to be talking about a time when both those planets are going to be at their peak of their power. But that's in November. We'll be talking about it. So anyway, let's get back to talking about October's trine between Mercury and Neptune, which stimulates creative imagination. It brings a deeper sensitivity to the world around us. This leads us to daydreaming, and it'd be a great day to spend listening to music, or reading or writing poetry, or romantic literature. Conversations will also kind of not revolve around practical things when we're dealing with Mercury trine Neptune. This is more suited to discussions about otherworldly spiritual topics and our fantasies, hopes, and dreams. Not great energy for accomplishing work, but it's wonderful for empathy and selfless compassion, with the offer to help others without any interest in what we gain ourselves. This is also very good energy for studying art, religion, music, poetry, spiritual or occult subjects, and as we're really kind of able to transcend the limitations of our normal rational thinking. Also on the 1st, the Sun squares Pluto. So the Sun is here, it's in Libra, and Pluto's up here in Capricorn. So from our perspective here on Earth, it forms a 90-degree angle. It's a very challenging angle. Um, and this is what going to begin this period. So where we've got the sun, which is our ego drive and who we are and our light that we shine in the world. It's going to be activating it's beginning this tense period where it's going to activate a cardinal grand cross with Pluto, and then Uranus, and then Jupiter. And these planets are pulling away from exactitude, but the Libra sun kind of dances with each one in the first 2 weeks of October. And a square between the sun and Pluto brings powerful forces that really kind of test us from within or from without. And these tests lead us to make radical changes in some area of our life that's just not working well. This can be beneficial for letting go of old patterns or behaviors that have come up for examination at this time, and holding on to what's not working. Really, if you do that after this transition, it's going to make life more difficult. This transit also indicates that persons in authority may demand that we account for our actions or even account for ourselves. Some people will abuse power that they're wielding under this influence. Also, this indicates a breakdown of situations and machinery. So no matter what you're experiencing, whether you experience something that this is going to make you aware that there's something that needs fixing. And my advice is to fix whatever it is. If it's a machine, a relationship, a behavior, a pattern that no longer works. And also on the 1st, the moon is being challenged by Venus, opposed by Neptune, and in harmony with Mercury. And the day moves from having pleasant energy to be with friends and loved ones, excuse me, and later feeling sensitive emotionally, but confused regarding the accuracy of what's being felt, along with having a lot of chatting with friends and neighbors and co-workers when the moon's interacting with Mercury. And then October 2nd, we've got 3 Chichan, or serpent, which is about taking action through being flexible. And we have the Virgo moon finding support from Pluto and in harmony with Saturn, which has us feeling deeper, more intense level under the influence of Pluto, and then wanting to be alone in our thoughts and feelings when it's interacting with Saturn. And then the 3rd, we have 4 Kimi, or transformation. This is about stability through releasing what no longer serves us. And this is the point where the sun here is now in opposition to Uranus, which means from our perspective here on Earth, this forms a 180-degree angle. They're completely on opposite ends of the circle, which this is the next alignment activating the cardinal grand cross. And this brings a day that can be quite different from the norm. This could be experienced as restlessness in close relationships, through one or the other feeling impatient or unwilling to put up with something, which could lead to arguments. In business partnerships, this may require a radical change due to some unexpected information or a situation. This will be a time of surprise or upset relating to parts of yourself that you have not received adequate expression in the past. So, something that you might have been holding back now just has to come out. This is a time to figure out what you want and figure out, and you can figure out if it's practical later, but right now just figure out what you want. For those that do not find a conscious expression for this energy, they may be more accident prone under this influence. Overall, the winds of change are blowing us in the direction and that we've become aware of due to Pluto's deep perspective that we received a few days earlier. And then the moon is in Virgo. It's harmonizing with Jupiter and Venus, which shifts from good feelings and congenial social interactions to later having pleasant energy to be with friends and loved ones. And then October 4th, In the Tzolkin calendar, we have 5 Manik, or deer. This is empowerment through being of service to others. And this is the point that we have the Libra new moon. It's being challenged by Pluto and opposed by Uranus and merging with the sun. Okay, Pluto square the new moon can bring the compulsion to engage in activities that are not good for us in the long run, but it can also help us look inside and find what we want in any situation, as long as we're honest with ourselves. Be cautious of power struggles, as people will easily slip into the role of victim or perpetrator. So here we've got a new moon. We've gotten some information from the sun and square Pluto, and then just the day before from the sun opposition Uranus has given us this fire, and then we get to this new moon. It's about new beginnings. So how are we dealing with this stuff? Okay, so this new moon is also being opposed by Uranus, which is another alignment to handle with care, because it triggers folks to leap to conclusions that are questionable, especially when their emotions are involved. This can be exciting and attract people who are different than our usual friends, but these new folks may even upset us, but for the purpose of exposing a need in our lives. This can stir up stormy experiences in our relationships, as people may interpret our interactions as wanting to pick a fight. This is really a very edgy new moon with strong energy for rebellion against any restriction that is blocking us to getting to something new. And new moons are times of new beginnings. In Libra, it's about balance, partnership, diplomacy, aesthetics. New moons bring an opportunity to set an intention for manifestation on the following new moon. So what you want to do is you just look at the house of your astrology chart that contains 11 degrees, 56 minutes. You can round it to 12 degrees if you like, Libra, to consider the area of your life that's being activated by the new moon. For me, it's my 5th house of creativity and children. So I'd set an intention related to using that energy, such as creating artwork or music that has that's aesthetically pleasing, and see that would really fulfill the Libra new moon's desire for pleasantry and beauty through the 5th house role of creation. And then on the 5th, we have 6 Lamat, or star. This is about being in the flow, for being grateful for our abundant relationships. And it brings the moon. It brings with it the moon in Libra, which is Libra's all about relationships, but it's being challenged by Jupiter and stimulated by Mars, which shifts from feeling benevolent and generous to those in our immediate environment to a desire to work independently for others. So it's still a pretty good day for abundance in relationships, especially we've got Jupiter in there. That's abundant. Moon in Libra. Libra's about relationships. So I love when the Tzolkin kind of links up with the astrology here. October 6th, 7 Maluk are offering in the Tzolkin, reflection through appreciating creation, and we have Mercury sextile Pluto. So here we have Mercury in Scorpio, and from our perspective, this here in the sun, oh my goodness, my Pluto has fallen off. I'll put it right back up here. Pluto in Capricorn. This is from our perspective here on Earth. This is forming a 60-degree angle. That's called a sextile. And with Mercury's going to be turning retrograde. This is the first of these alignments. The other 2 harmonies between Mercury and Pluto will be on November 1st and November 20th. This energetic loves the mysterious and wants to know what can't be known. Our minds are really active and penetrating below the surface in search of core knowledge, real knowledge that comes from our search for the truth. This energy is great for studying psychology, astrology, occult subjects, and healing techniques that are aimed at regeneration. Folks may be certain of their truths and I put truths in quotes, and engage in trying to convince others who are also certain of their truths. So this pairing might be better to kind of focus on our own investigation and save persuading others for another day. Also on the 6th, we have this Scorpio moon finding support from Neptune and merging with Mercury and Saturn. The day moves from fantasies and daydreams distracting us from accomplishing our routine tasks to later having positive energy for integrating our thoughts and moods, and then finally just wanting to be alone in our thoughts and feelings. And then on the 7th, we have 8 awk, or dog. This is about balance through enjoying family and friends. And that at that point, that's when Venus moves into Sagittarius. So Venus is then crossing the line into the sign of the happy wanderer. This really brings a spirit of adventure to our love affairs. The first attractions may seem very romantic, but the happy wanderer is not really sure about sacrificing freedom for the relationship. So anyway, this is an outgoing energy for social engagements, travel, spirited friendships, and on the 7th, the moon in Scorpio is supported by Jupiter, which brings a pleasant sense of well-being. October 8th, 9 Xuan, or monkey. This is about patience, experience through creating something new. And at this point, Mercury is merging with Saturn, meaning that they are at the same angle as Scorpio. So from our perspective here on Earth, these planets are at exactly the same degree. And, again, another alignment of Mercury that's going to be repeated 3 times during the retrograde cycle. The other 2 being on October 29th and the final one being November 25th. So Mercury conjunct Saturn makes folks cautious. On the positive side, we're more precise in our thinking and detail-oriented in our communication. And if you if you've previously outlined a general plan, this allows you to fill in the details. Critical thinking is very sharp. It can see the flaws in any argument, including our own. This transit can be an obstacle from seeing the big picture. We can see the distinction of different trees, but we don't see the forest. At worst, it creates difficulty in communication because we may be afraid of revealing something, so we say nothing due to our negative thinking that often accompanies this transit. And this is the time to speak up because what is not expressed can actually injure someone else. Overall, this requires discipline and commitment to our ethics and values, which is, we've already talked about that being a theme of this being a 7th month in the numerology. While the moon is going to be challenged by Mars and Neptune and it merges with Venus, we begin the day with people being irritable and having needless disputes, and then later that shifts to feeling cheerful, warm, gregarious, and wanting to go out and socialize. And then finally, it brings our dreams into the day's vibration when it's dancing with Neptune. And then the 9th, we have 10 Ebb, or road, which is about manifestation through serving our community. The Sagittarius moon finds support from Uranus and is in harmony with the sun. So the day's emotional energy begins with a desire for emotional excitement to engage in activities outside of our daily routine, and then later feeling a sense of inner and outer equanimity when it's connected with the sun. October 10th, 11 Ben, reed or corn in the Tzolkin. This is about resolution through maintaining the home. And at this point, the Venus is now square to Neptune. So we have Venus here in Sag forming a square down to Neptune in early Pisces. So from our perspective here on the Earth, this is a 90-degree angle. And this is an alignment between planet octaves. Venus representing personal love, Neptune representing unconditional and universal love. The romantic imagination is active under this transit, which can lead to unrealistic expectations regarding our loved ones. So please remember, your partner is a mere mortal, and not hold them to an impossible romantic ideal that no one could or even should try to attain. Relationships that are damaged by this transit are usually not really based on reality. This is very positive for daydreaming, and it leads to an artistic expression. And then we've got the moon finding support from Mars and in harmony with Neptune, which moves us from feeling a little more confident than usual and able to assert ourselves in a positive manner when it's connected with Mars, and then to later having a greater sensitivity to other people's emotions and possible psychic impressions for those folks who are really open to that type of energy. The 11th, we have 12 Ish, or Jaguar. This is about understanding through enjoying nature in the Mayan Tzolkin calendar, with the and this is also the Capricorn first quarter moon. It merges with Pluto. It's challenged by Uranus and the Sun, and in harmony with Saturn, and let's see, in harmony with Saturn and Mercury, and opposed by Jupiter. That's a lot of stuff going on. It makes for a very busy day emotionally. It's sort of beginning with having more intense moods rising up to the surface from deep in our psyche, with folks acting hasty and jumping to conclusions that may not be correct, and then having some realistic expectations through being calm and reflective. And then later conversations are stimulated. And finally, it brings challenges to really following a daily routine, along with feelings of generosity. So, it's just a lot of energy when you've got all those planets interacting with the moon all on the same day. And then so October 12th is 13 Men or Eagle. This is about movement to the next stage through seeing from a higher perspective. And on this day, we have the Sun forming a 90-degree angle, a square angle with Jupiter. So from our perspective here on Earth, we are seeing a 90-degree angle between the Sun and Jupiter. I'm sorry. No, I am correct. My goodness, I'm all over the place today. Say, Sun-Jupiter square. This is very useful for moving ahead with something you desire, as long as you avoid excess, because we got Jupiter here, and remain disciplined. So many are going to feel an urge to take on a more than they can handle, or even have the resources to accomplish. It's really can be overly optimistic and exuberant. So we need to kind of be careful being extravagant. So it's best to approach this with restraint. This can also create difficulties with others, because many will express its influence as arrogant self-righteousness. And since you're aware of this possibility, you might want to approach those folks by looking for common ground and compassion for their point of view. And then on the last day of the Trsena, we have the moon in Capricorn, and it makes no angles on the 12th. So when that happens, we say it's void of course until it moves into Aquarius, which that void of course moon, it does not favor major decisions or purchases, but it's good to use for resting and just kind of assimilating all this latest round of energy and experiences. So no matter what these energies and how they're affecting you during the one night Trsena, take some time out to be in the flow of the planet by being in nature, or watching a sunrise or sunset, or commune with the stars. Stare at a star until you can really feel the energy of the people who live out and orbit that star. or being conscious of the moment through introspection or meditation, or just really being conscious when you're with somebody you love. Every single day we have is a blessing, no matter what the dramas are that are trying to knock us off balance. We're all here trying to give the performance of our lifetime on the world stage. The thing that I think is really important is to recognize that you are a spiritual being that's having a human experience. So as well, take some time to observe the play, observe the movie, be in the audience, be that spiritual being that's watching your human go through their human experience as you're playing your part as well. You need to be both, but it's great when you can have some detachment and watch yourself navigate life instead of just being caught up with what's happening. Anyway, thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment, A Karen Feeding of a New World Age, will be on October 13th for One Akbal, or wisdom. We'll also be talking about Mars moving into Virgo, the Aries full moon and lunar eclipse, Mercury turning retrograde. That's going to be a big one there. And the sun moving into Scorpio. You can check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and the Mayan Magics website. I encourage you to share this information as videos or texts as widely as you choose. I'm going to be discussing the astrology of all of October 2013 and providing very short 10 to 15 minute human design readings for the participants of the Earth Needs Rebels show on Orion Talk Radio on Tuesday, October 1st. That show is live at from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So come check us out. You can put your birth information into the chat, and I'll do your reading right live on the show. And it's recorded, so you can then download it and have your reading to listen to over and over again. But they are short; they're 10 to 15 minutes. As always, I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com, right up there. If you have any questions, wish to schedule a reading, and I'm providing readings and that I really wish to make this service available to the greatest amount of folks. So I've created 3 options with 3 levels of compensation. These readings are designed to provide you with information that will be helpful in navigating these difficult times. So at the basic level, we look at your human design chart to help you understand how to use your individual strategy and authority in making life decisions based on your unique design. At the next level, I include 3 months of astrological transits as they relate to your natal and progressive astrology chart. And then at the top level, the human design and astrology transit reading is recorded and sent to you as an MP3 that you can download to your computer. So if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I'd love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to either be able to call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect on Skype so that you can receive your reading. We're accepting donations to try and keep this going, keep New World Birth afloat here, keep these presentations freely available. As always, I'm blessed that you've taken the time out to connect with my passion for all these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste and Lakesh. And looking forward to connecting again during